live stream, doing the live stream, doing the stuffs and the things with the peoples and the stuffs in the live stream, talking about the gods and the whatnots. My daughter giving a concert in the background in the live stream. I don't know if the camera or the mic can pick that up or not. My daughter's in her room just singing at the top of her lungs. It's actually quite adorable.
I'll try and listen and see if I can hear.
But it's a live stream. It's a live stream seeking evidence for God. Any kind of evidence for God that there could be. I'm open to whatever. I'm open to the possibility of there being a God. I'm okay, perfectly okay with the possibility of there being a God. I would like there to be a God of sorts. But unfortunately, that want does not put that God there. So, I just don't know. You know, would like there to be something. I'd like there to be something else out there. Some kind of supernatural something. Real bread from Jesus about 57 days ago. Well, that does sound interesting, doesn't it? It does definitely sound interesting, if nothing else. Bread. The bread from Jesus. Not to be confused with manna, I assume. I assume just like, I don't know, a loaf. God, just bring a loaf down. I mean, if God can bring just a loaf of bread down to people, he should absolutely do that. You can multiply the loaves and whatnot and to feed all these people. Don't stop. There's people that are hungry. If we could just keep giving bread and fish to people, that'd be swell. That would be super duper duper swell. Hello. Do you have smoke alarms in your homes? Because the stream is fire. I do have smoke alarms, but as you can hear, they are not going off because the stream is certainly not fire. But they do exist in the event of fire. Should a fire of sorts break out. I don't know if you can hear my cat being tortured in the background. She gets lumps in her fur, and my wife has to brush them out, and the cat doesn't like it. She was way worse before I started the live. I waited a couple seconds, like a minute to start the live, because she's just sitting on the couch next to me, just trying to pry a lump of hair, just a big mat, out of the kitty cat. The cat didn't like it. Or do I have indoor plumbing? I do. Because the stream is shit. Is that the thing? Because that'll work a lot better, I feel like. Hello. Welcome. My daughter's yelling at my cat for screaming out in pain as my wife's trying to brush her. Just evolved into chaos here. Do I collect anything? Not these days. Gay asparagus, I'm so happy that Jesus was able to do that for you. Collect dust. Well, that is one thing that we're good at collecting. We're good at producing it. You know, a good percentage of what dust is just dead skin. So like, just kind of producing it. Believe in Jesus, rapture soon. Why should I believe in Jesus? And how do you know the rapture is coming soon? He did get nailed by some Roman jocks. That is the thing that Jesus did. Oh, sorry. Grad, I didn't see your previous. Are you open to actually finding the evidence? Yes, immensely. I've been making this content for like 2 years now. Yeah, over 2 years now. Searching for evidence, and the longer I do it, the more I lose hope that there will ever be evidence or any reason to believe. The Bible is literally true, including the rapture of belief. How do you know that the Bible is true? How do you know that? It's not my evidence, it's yours, but you have to be open to finding it. Sure. Let's do it. I am open to such things. I am here for evidence. The title of the stream isn't just clickbait. I'm actually hoping that somebody can bring evidence. You know, it's not just for clickbait. It's not online. Cool. As a Christian, respectfully, I do not believe in the rapture or other components of premillennialism. I am a preterist. I love everyone. Jesus, Christians, atheists, Jews, Muslims. I'm here for it. Well, good. We looked everywhere. Now it's your turn to provide evidence, if you have any. Christ appeared to me in a wide-awake vision of the rapture in the summer of 22. I was not a believer before then. I was, in fact, very anti-Christianity. It's all true. Believe. Love you, dude. How do you know that it was an actual vision from God and not just, like, any number of other things? A hallucination, a drug trip, any other explanation? So like, I guess I could ask for like just more information in general about the experience, even though personal experience doesn't usually hold up as good evidence, but I'm still interested. Can I provide evidence? Faith is a choice. Freedom of choice is a beautiful thing. Yeah, but belief isn't really a choice. Either you're convinced enough of something to warrant a belief, or you're not. You don't really. You could like to believe. You might be able to trick yourself into believing, or say that you believe, whatever else. But when you actually get down to it, whether you believe in something or not really isn't up to you. No one can go find it for you. The evidence for someone else's discovery will never be valid for you. Cool. The evidence has to be somewhere, doesn't it? What do you think happens when someone dies? I think their the chemical reactions in their brain responsible for consciousness, thought, feeling, emotion, all that stuff just kind of stop. So essentially, from the person's perspective, they essentially cease to exist. From the perspective of everyone else, they decompose. Their matter and energy return to the earth. And that's about it. Or if you want to look at it from a more beautiful societal standpoint, a lot of things happen after someone dies. It just doesn't involve them. The world continues on until it doesn't. We're all still going to be here until we won't be. Do you want to find out or not? I would like to find evidence, but you haven't even gotten close to like telling me how. You're just telling me where it's not and what it is, and it's like you haven't given me. What do you got? Hello, Doom. My water. The kingdom is in my midst. And then you say stuff like that, it doesn't tell me anything. Within. Okay. Elaborate. Issue: people born into religion can truly know God if they were conditioned by their upbringing instead of spiritual realization with God. Issue: having faith in God isn't an absolute knowledge of God. Yeah, I can agree. People born into religion can truly know God if they were conditioned by their upbringing, assuming there is a God, instead of the spiritual realization with God. Having faith is an absolute knowledge. So, like, you might not know, like, to truly know that he's real or not from your upbringing, but definitely come to believe in it. There are so many archaeological facts, pictures, and stories that all align with stories in the Bible. Do research beyond the Bible. I have, but the archaeological stuff doesn't really get me to a God existing. It can get me to the Bible being historical fiction in some aspects at best, meaning actual people, places, and events, but having a twist on it, like Abraham Lincoln Vampire Slayer. Abraham Lincoln existed, but he wasn't fighting vampires. It's an actual historical stuff, but we add magic and stuff into it, and it's the magic that the archaeological evidence doesn't really get us to. I shouldn't say magic, the divine, the God, anything like that. Spiritual, supernatural, however you like to word it. Have you taken a look of scientific claims of Pim van Lommel? No, I haven't, but I can write that down. I can write it down and maybe look it up later. But maybe you can tell me about those scientific claims, or who this person is that you're talking about. Jesus died for our wages and sin, then came back to life. There wouldn't be a church if it didn't happen. Be humble and understand, not ignorant. Well, I'm not trying to be ignorant. There absolutely could be a church and could be Christianity and a religion without Jesus actually dying and rising from the dead. Plenty of other religions exist without, if you believe Christianity is true, then it probably follows that these other religions and their gods are false, but those religions still exist. So if you don't believe in those claims, but still, if you don't believe in the claims of other religions and the gods of other religions, but still acknowledge that they exist, then we can say that the existence of Christianity doesn't necessarily mean, we can look at it the same way with Christianity, that just the claims, I've lost my words, Claims don't need to be true for Christianity to exist, just like the claims for other religions don't need to be true for those religions to exist. I don't believe humans were designed to have any purpose. I am, by all accounts, humble. I don't need the idea of someone designed existence just for me. Yeah. It is interesting, and this isn't really meant to be a jab, and please forgive me if it is for any Christians or whatever, or any religious people, but I hear a lot of talk about you need to be humble from theists. You need to find humility, be humble, and from Christians, be humble. Also, I believe that there's this God that created everything and has me as a part of the plan and has a good relationship with me. And this all-powerful being that created the entire universe loves me so much and has worked me into these plans because I'm just so special in his eyes. And it's very, 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 very opposite of humble when you think about it. I am humble in the sense that I am just another thing that came about in the universe with a mind. Nothing really special, nothing really loved by any specific higher power or anything. I don't think things were designed with me in mind or anything like that. I think I am just an emergent property of the universe, and that my species just evolved to fit on this planet, rather than the planet being made perfectly for my species. I was raised by a Baptist and an atheist, both great parents. Read the Bible frequently. There's no physical evidence. I freely admit that. Feelings just don't constitute evidence. And he's not ignorant. Oh, you might have been talking to somebody else. Sometimes I don't know if you guys are talking to me or somebody else, so forgive me if I read. Gray, all of your past 10 messages just say message retracted on my side. Before they got retracted? Why are they getting retracted? And Darth Severus the Sorcerer, one of your messages got retracted. I don't know why they're getting retracted. All the elements needed for life are exactly as they need to be for life to happen. How does that just happen from a big bang? It is perfectly aligned from nothing. Well, just because we don't understand exactly how something happened doesn't mean that it must have been a god. That's just the god of the gaps fallacy. But also, the universe is big, infinite or seemingly infinite. It is old, and it's got a lot of stuff in it, and it does a lot of stuff. And we just might be one of those stuffs that it does. And it might just be that, especially if you're looking at it from a planet standpoint, it's very easy. There's billions, probably more, probably trillions of planets in the universe. The odds of one of them having the stuff needed to harbor life are irrelevant. Even if the odds of having a planet with the perfect conditions of life are 1 in a trillion, there's probably a trillion planets out there. So it was inevitable that one of those planets, it would seem, would harbor life, and therefore it did. And it wasn't in any specific special spot in the universe. It just happened where it could happen. And since it did happen, now we're here, and we think that we in this spot in this planet are just so special, which they're cool, they can harbor life, but think that they're just so special and center to everything, even though it's just a planet that did stuff because it was able to do stuff, and we don't know if it could have happened any other way. We don't have other universes to compare to of how things could have been different. This just seems like something that the universe just does, just a natural process of the universe. And we don't understand that, and I would like to understand that. And unfortunately, I'm probably going to die long before, or we're all probably going to die long before we get any real answers of how the universe does stuff, which is frustrating. But just because we don't have those answers doesn't mean we just get to plug whatever we want into those gaps. Do you believe that Jesus is God's son and he was sent as a baby to save all people by dying on the cross? No. I don't. We're not so special in the end. I am behind on chat. Wow. We are not so special in the end. I was atheist for almost 3 decades. I was a Christian for over 2. So, that. I found that atheists have high IQs and are often the sign Aquarius or have Jupiter in Aquarius. I study astrology and I find that interesting. I don't know anything about astrology. I forget, and I'm sure my wife's going to pipe up in a second. I forget my sign, like Sagittarius. I forget it. I don't know how many times you've told me what that is. Well, because then they changed it. I was like, well, shit, I don't care anymore because it's taken me this long to learn what the sign is, which I clearly haven't even done that. And they changed it, but then my sign didn't change, so I don't know where I am. I have nothing against anyone who looks at astrology, just as long as you don't put too much stock in it. Not really something I follow. Independently and purely scientifically, he is not a Christian to develop a way to understand whether consciousness can remain alive, if you will, after death. That does sound interesting. Have a discussion with Big John Steele on YouTube Live. You would have a great discussion on this topic. I don't know who that is, but sounds interesting. I'd be interested to talk to people. Once you meet Christ, everything comes into focus. Okay, he needs to show up first. I can't meet someone who's like hiding from me. Can you explain love, please? Love's an interesting and complicated thing. Not sure I really can, honestly. It's caring. Well, there's different kinds of love. But I guess a general love, like love for one another, would be caring, kindness, a bond or attachment or a pull towards someone and towards someone's well-being, wanting them to be happy and well and feeling happy and comfortable and safe around them would be some descriptors. But love is a big definition, and it's more of something that we feel than I think something that we can really explain. What is the first law of thermodynamics? Oh, one of your chats actually made it through. Cool. Isn't that matter? I should know this. Isn't that matter can't be created or destroyed? Not me. Not me looking it up. I should know these things. There's so much. There's so much. There's so much. So much to learn. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. Which one is matter? Isn't one of them matter? I'm not smart. Oh God, I'm behind. All right, I'm gonna skip a few chats so I can skip to the bottom. If I don't read your chat, please feel free to put it again. But I was like 15, 20 chats behind, probably like 15. Atheists believe in miracles too. I guess they can, but not usually, no. Love is the brightest, loudest, fastest energy there is. I'm glad you put energy in quotes, because I don't know if I would do energy, but yeah, it's something. Pastor Ralph Yankee Arnold Salvation Sermons. That's a mouthful. My pen. I'm suddenly drowning in chat. I know, just as I'm writing this down, I can feel the chat moving. Oh no. 10 shots behind.
Let's go with it.
Yeah, do not be afraid to repost something if I don't see it. I'm having a hard time keeping up with chat tonight, so please forgive me. I don't believe in Christian. I don't believe in miracles, and I'm a Christian, so I guess I'm a unicorn. Makes sense to me. The body is not the real you. You are the ghost in the machine. Sure. I would like to think that, but we don't really have any reason to believe that. Also, great books to read. The Case for Christ. No. No. Yeah, I know about The Case for Christ. It's garbage. It's the most frustrating thing I've ever been forced to read. I threw it down multiple times while reading it, and threw it down after I was done reading it, as I was finally free from the chains of having to read it. It's just I just was not impressed. We'll put it in nicer terms. I was not impressed at all by The Case for Christ. Just was not. What did I just do? Okay, cool. I thought I closed my different tab. I looked away. Why did I look away? I'm only 4 chats behind. Numerous people's near-death experiences don't really do anything. There are some people who have these near-death experiences and they don't see anything. There are people who die and they see Jesus. There are people who die and see Vishnu. There are people who die and see Grandma. And a lot of times, it usually correlates with their beliefs, and therefore often the beliefs of the society that they're in. So like in the US, would be a more common trope for someone to see Jesus when they die, or heaven or something when they have the near-death experiences. In a more Hindu country, it might be different, or in a more Muslim country, it might be different. And it usually is different. So it just seems like the better explanation. Maybe not just the solid fact, truth, indisputed, whatever, but the better explanation, it would seem, would be that near-death experiences are just the brain dying, deprived of oxygen, failing at the one thing that it's supposed to desperately keep doing, just doing stuff, just splattering your brain with whatever, just trying to make something out of whatever is happening, in an often terrifying experience. I do not believe that consciousness remains after we die. Nothing like a boring book. Case for Christ wasn't even boring. It was just frustrating. It was just. I don't like talking mean. I don't like talking mean. So I'm gonna stop talking. Yeah, don't get me going. Subjective versus objective consciousness, like observing one potentially out of infinite. It's a concept. Sounds interesting. Are you inviting people up on stream? I would if that was a feature on YouTube. I don't think it is. I thought you were an atheist seeking God. Your title. I am. Did I miss, in one of the chats I scrolled by, did I miss one of the amazing evidences for God that would have blown me away? Dr. Schroeder explains that scientifically the Big Bang did not produce any matter, protons, neutrons, but there was light. Atheist view that the light beams created everything we know of today. Well, atheist view, the atheist idea is just the lack of belief in a God. That's it. So don't tie in, they also believe in the Big Bang, evolution, all this stuff. A lot of atheists do, because that's just what the scientific consensus leads us to, and the evidence leads us to, and we tend to follow evidence. But atheism is just a lack of belief in a God. So be careful with, the atheist view that the light beams create everything we know of today is not an atheist view. There isn't even an atheist view. Atheism is just the lack of a certain belief. That's it. Um, but yes, it would seem that um, things weren't created, that the matter and energy weren't created at the Big Bang. They were just kind of released, let go into the darkness. What am I living for? The experience of life. It's interesting. It's intriguing. I want to learn more and experience more. I also have wonderful people in my life that I would like to stick around for. I have a wife and a child that would probably like it if I stuck around for a little bit longer. Um, I want to try to make a positive impact on the world. Try to make the world a better place in whatever little or large way I can before I go. Those are some of the things that I live for. If you are a logical person, stick with vendetta. I don't know what that means. You can head over to Standing for Truth channel. Get many, if not all, your questions answered there and debates. Well, I doubt it, but I'll look it up. Typically, when I see something, oh, it's gonna answer all your questions, I'll look, and it doesn't. As the universe cooled, conditions improved. Yeah. How was the universe created? Logically, it was created, and it is ordered, which shows that there was intelligent creator. Just because we don't understand how something works doesn't mean it must have been a god. This just seems like the universe doing universe stuff. I was explaining this earlier. You might not have been here. But the universe does stuff. It's very big. It's very old. It's filled with stuff, and it does a lot of stuff. And we are just an emergent property of the universe. Morality is subjective, and so is subjective, and is therefore subject to change. It is literally whatever we decide it is. It is not literally whatever we decide it is. It is 200,000 years of humans figuring out how to work together as a society and figuring out what best works for the well-being of a society and individuals in a society. It is not just whatever we decide it is. Now, there is some wiggle room and some disagreement because, yes, it is, at the end of the day, subjective. There is no objective morality. At least I don't believe there is. We have no reason to believe there is. Even if there is a God, the objective morality, would just be that God's subjective morality. So even then we wouldn't have objective morality. But boiling it down to just whatever we decide it is completely misrepresenting the entire human history of us figuring out how morality and ethics work and how to work together. Including the systems that, if there wasn't a God, if there's no God, which we don't have any evidence for, it would seem that we came up with morality and ethics without religion and then plugged them into our religions. That we came up with it first. This system, this subjective system that you trash, is the system found in the religions. Or at least some tweaked and varied version of it. Chat is moving tonight. Chat is moving tonight. What is good? It depends on the context. I guess good in terms of morality, what is good for humanity, would be that which promotes well-being, safety, happiness, things of the like. Shooting someone in the head ends their life. That's not very good for their living. So we've kind of based our morality system around well-being, overall human well-being, happiness, safety, things of the like, health, all those things. Because that just seems to be the best thing to base it around. That's just what's worked the best. So it's what we've stuck to the most. So good in this context would be that which promotes human well-being, I think. Uh-oh, gray matter throwing out the "you never had faith to begin with." A great way to dismiss and discredit any legitimate grievances a former believer might have, while also alleviating a believer's fear that they too could lose their faith. Because if somebody who actually had faith lost their faith, that means that the person who still has faith could lose their faith. And that's a terrifying thought. It was terrifying for me when I still believed. So we just dismiss, discredit, don't have to engage. Just, you were never one of us to begin with. You never had faith. Doesn't matter how much faith they had throughout their life. Doesn't matter if they were once a better Christian than you, which some of us atheists probably were. Some of us atheists were wonderful Christians. I was a devout Christian. I prayed to God throughout my day, every single day, trying to make sure my steps aligned perfectly with his path. I ended up losing my faith by diving into my studies because I wanted to become an apologist so that I could continue to spread God's light, love, and message throughout the world if I could. I took this stuff seriously. But no, former believers never had faith to begin with. It's never, just brush them off the table. Dismiss, discredit. Don't have to engage. Oh, don't do that. What makes the well-being of humans good if we're all just dust? How can that be objective? It's not objective. It's subjective. I don't believe there is any objective morality. But we're humans. Just self-preservation and survival is just kind of baked into living nature, not even just human nature, but the nature of living things. So it would only make sense that towards that end, we would like to continue our self-preservation and survival. And the best way to do that is society, and working together for the betterment of that society and the individuals in it, including ourselves. Chat is moving so fast.
It really is.
Best part is, I'm sure I've missed some people's chats and said, like, if I miss it, just repost it. And I'm sure that there's people who have reposted it a number of times and I still haven't seen it. And if that's the case, I'm so sorry. Put it in all caps or something. Yell at me if you feel free. I'm not trying to skip anyone, I promise. It's just chat's moving fast. I can't imagine a more privileged or entitled attitude or perspective to have than to believe that your well-being should automatically be worth anything to anybody just because you are human. Delusional. I can't imagine a more privileged or entitled attitude than the creator of all things loves me and has a special plan just for me and made all of this just for me and people like me. And that I'm one of his special chosen few people who will get to go to the special after party. Where, well, everyone else, all these other heathens burn in hell. Also, that's not a representation of what I said. It's not an accurate representation of what I said, I don't think. I feel half the people commenting here know no real theology. Unfortunately, that's what you get a lot with Christianity. A lot of Christians haven't even read the Bible. And that's not really saying it to be mean, that's just saying an unfortunate fact. It's a kitten. And you know what? I'm going to keep saying it. I'm going to keep stating that as an unfortunate fact, because it's an unfortunate fact that needs to fucking change. Because there are a lot of Christians who come out and try to defend the faith who don't know what they're talking about and are just making an ass of themselves, an ass of their religion, not giving Christianity a fair fight. I want there to be good back and forth. I want us to explore Christianity and other religions and theism as possible truth, as something that might be out there. But when I get so many Christians standing up who just straight up don't know what they're talking about, you just trash the entire show and do just make an ass of yourself and the entire religion. Uh, and I do get heated for that. It's like this. It's why do I think this is more important than so many Christians? If you're a Christian, you believe this is the end all be all. This is faith, God, Christ, Christianity, the Bible. These are the end all be alls, so important, central to everything that ever exists and could ever exist in eternity of anything. And you haven't even read a chapter of the book. And you haven't even tried. You haven't even. I still get people commenting the most basic, baseline arguments for Christianity that are just complete nonsense, have been disproven, discredited so many times. I mean, not disproven, but discredited so many times. Still using them. It's just like, you gotta do better. I'm not here to just steamroll. I'm not that smart. And there's a lot of atheists who aren't that smart. I don't want to believe that it's a system where atheists are all just more intelligent than Christians. It's just that Christians aren't putting in enough effort. It's just like, try. This is supposed to be your everything. Try. I'm supposed to be an atheist where none of this matters to me. And I put forth more effort than most Christians. And I'm not even big in the scene of atheist activism. I'm a random nobody. I have like 1,500 subscribers on this channel. Like, I'm a random nobody, and I'm putting forth more effort and know more than the average Christian. That's sad. That's sad. I've read the Bible more times than the average Christian, especially when you consider the fact that I've read it multiple times where the average Christian hasn't read it once. That's my rant. I know I'm sure I'm far behind on chat again, but it just triggers me. It just triggers me when it's something that's supposed to be so important, but you truly just don't give a fuck about it. Anyway. I was a Christian still when I got married and decided to have a kid. I think I was non-denominational. Yeah, I was thinking. Yeah, I was non-denominational at the time. You need to pet the cat. It's pride at its finest. They feel so strongly about their personal beliefs, they just automatically assume that God must agree with them. Yeah. I've heard it said that if your God conveniently likes all the things that you like and hates all the things that you hate, you probably made him up. It's probably just your imaginary friend. Smokey, you want to say hi to the people? You want to come say hi to the people? Snatch the key. She doesn't like it. Okay. Name 10 prophets off the top of my head if I've truly read that much. Oh gosh. Elijah, Elisha. Would we count Moses? I feel like we would. Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Malachi, Isaiah. Would we count Paul? I probably don't know as many as I should. You're probably absolutely right. I think that's a good call out. I also am confused. And this is a dumb thing to be confused by what we mean by prophet, because there's a more specific definition and there's a broader definition. Go read something new and challenge your belief system. I guarantee this is the way for you religious folks. That's one of the reasons I lost my faith, is I was willing to listen to what the opposition had to say. Even though I didn't like it, I hated hearing people speak out against Christianity. But it's like, no, if you're going to defend Christianity, you're going to need to listen to them. That's just facts. This is just how this works. You want to be up on a debate stage, you're going to hear these arguments, and you're going to need to be able to come up with good counter arguments. Hey, remember me? Did you happen to find God yet? I have not found him. Believe it or not. What is faith? Faith is what you... My brain just fizzled. Faith is the thing that you plug in when you don't have any actual reason to believe. It's the reason to believe that you plug in when you don't have any actual credible reason to believe. And it's a terrible path to the truth, because you can have faith in anything, because it is just a filler. It's, I don't have any actual evidence for this belief. Let's just put faith in. Now I have a reason to believe. I could have faith that this water bottle is going to turn into a unicorn and carry me off to Valhalla. There are people who have faith in Islam, Hinduism, Taoism, all these other things. So where does it get us? You know, it's like we're trying to identify a murderer, you know, or we'll say a burglar, and we have the victim in the room, and we have people lined up against the wall. It's like, all right, can you tell us anything about the burglar? Well, he had brown hair. They all have brown hair. So we're not going to use that. You know, if it's just one thing that they all use, it doesn't mean anything. Throw it out. That's why we look for evidence to see why we should believe these, because faith just doesn't work. Did I marry for Christian reasons? I did not. I married because I loved the woman that I loved, and I wanted to spend the rest of my life with her. I do still think I would have gotten married and had a kid if I was an atheist. With over 8 billion of us, we should start figuring out whose well-being is worth the precious limited resources required and whose does not. That's not what I'm saying, Greg. You're really trying to, and maybe I'm wrong in this, Greg, but it seems like you're doing the thing that a lot of Christians and theists like to do, where if there's no God, just throw it all out the window. Let it all burn. You know, if there was no God, I would just go around murdering and pillaging as many people as I wanted, because, you know, what would stop me? That everything goes out the window. When in reality, without religion, there's still a whole society of people who aren't doing that. So it's not, you know, you're trying to paint this worldview of, if there is no God, well, we can just, you know, survival of the fittest, whatever else, you know, or it doesn't matter, we're just dust in the end. We might as well all just, you know, we'll all just kill each other or kill ourselves. But notice how the people who don't believe in God aren't doing that. Because it's almost like they have another system in place where they don't need to do that. It doesn't get that bad without a God. It simply does not. Yeah, that's what I thought. My chat on my phone stopped. I'm like, chat was moving really, really fast, and then it stopped moving.
Yeah, it's still moving.
This is why I have my side screen pointed up. Did you explore other faith traditions like Catholicism or Orthodoxy? I've looked at other denominations, not quite as deeply as I should. I was raised Catholic, so I definitely dove into Catholicism and studied Catholicism. I find your lack of faith disturbing. It's pretty funny. Are you willing to listen to people smarter than you? Yes. I would imagine they would probably know things that I don't, that I could then also know. Perhaps I could be corrected on things that I'm wrong about. Because if I'm ever wrong about something, I would love to be corrected, because that's the only way I'm going to stop being wrong. And I would like to be right about things. Are you trying to get closer to God? I would like to know if there is a God or if there is not. I would like there to be a God. I guess if I want to get closer to that God once it exists, I guess it would depend on the God. Like, if it's any of the Abrahamic gods, fuck them. I'm not really interested in getting closer to them. We all take leaps of faith. You have faith logic as a valid source of truth. No, I have reason to believe. It's like, and I know this isn't the exact argument that you're making, but it's like people say, well, you have faith that when you sit in a chair that it's not going to break. No, I have reason to believe that it is probably not going to break, because most of the time I have sat in chairs they have not broken. Most of the time I've seen anybody or observed anybody else sitting in chairs they have not broken. Can they break? Yes, I've seen it. But most of the time they don't, especially if it's a good solid chair. I would have a little bit less reason to believe that some old rickety chair I found in an abandoned house would support my weight. I have strong reason to believe that the chairs on my dining room table will support my weight, because they do it almost every single day. But they might not someday. So that's why I say they will probably support my weight, but they might not. But it's just reason to believe. I base what I believe on what I have reason to believe. It's not about faith. Have you attempted a conversation with God? For the majority of my life, my day was an all-day conversation with God. He himself admits that he doesn't know what true Christianity is. He doesn't know what true faith means. Well, then perhaps you can enlighten me. Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints worked for me as a convert. Conversion was experimental. Try it out. Missionaries are low-hanging fruit. Yeah, I'm not really interested in Latter-day Saints. I think I may have lost the live. Oh no, I didn't. Sweet.
I was gonna say it stopped for a second.
I got the spinning wheel of death for a minute there. I got scared. The live is almost over, so like if it ended now, I would probably just go ahead and end it. So if it does end, thank you for being here, but I'm not going to end it quite yet. But if it does end, what's wrong with Abraham? I didn't say anything was, per se. There's a couple things, but Abrahamic religions, Abrahamic gods, Islam, Judaism, Christianity, because they all worship the same God, they just go different directions with it. And I know people don't like to hear that, but they do. Hello. I'm also just all over the place because I'm trying to keep up with chat. I do apologize for that. Your definition of faith, no true believer will agree. Well, I can understand that, but that's what the definition of faith is, honestly. I know it's a little bit more prettied up from a Christian standpoint, but that's basically what faith is. Islam and Christianity are vastly different. I didn't say they weren't. Every time, and I was waiting for it, every time I say that Islam, Christianity, and Judaism follow the same God, they just go different directions with it, I get people talking about, no, they're so different. They follow the same God, they just went different directions with it. Yes, they are different. They are very different. But they all follow the God of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, Noah, Adam and Eve, all that biz. All of them. Islam even believes in Jesus. It just doesn't believe that he was the son of God or anything like that, just a prophet. But they do all start with the same thing. Because you can even see in the Bible, Christianity very clearly evolved from Judaism. And then later on, we get Islam, still branching off of the stories of the Bible, mostly the Old Testament and the Gospels. Mostly the Pentateuch and the Gospels. Which the Pentateuch is essentially the Torah of Jewish tradition. It is the same thing. It's just kind of, I guess you could say, it just kind of evolves over time. They don't have the Old or New Testament. Islam does. Islam, the Quran talks about Adam and Eve and Abraham and Isaac and Israel and Moses and Noah and Jesus. as like figures that existed, like actual, and talks about the events that happened as if they had actually happened. Are you not in direct conflict with God's desires, chasing away who he is chasing after? I don't know. If he doesn't like it, he can show up and say something about it. Oh, you weren't talking to me. I'm sorry, Victoria. It's crazy to me how so many Christians react in anger and mockery when someone does not believe. If you genuinely believe that atheists are going to hell and that God is chasing after their hearts, are you not in direct conflict with God's desires, chasing away who he is chasing after? Very well said, Victoria. I am so sorry for only reading a part of your chat. There's so much chat. I'm drowning. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Is then an atheist seeking God, or is it a theist trying to convince atheists who are seeking? Is an atheist seeking God, or is it a theist trying to convince atheists who are seeking? Maybe. We trust history. I believe wasn't even in there. Where did I pull that word out of? We trust history, eyewitnesses, and testimony. Do you believe in Julius Caesar, Alexander the Great, Cleopatra, Paul, Peter, St. Ignatius of Antioch? You kind of start to lose me a little bit with Paul and Peter. Everyone who were witnesses of Christ as an apostle. Everyone who witnesses of Christ as an apostle. We don't know that anyone was witnesses of Christ. We don't have any first-hand accounts of witnesses of Christ's teachings or miracles or anything like that. When it comes to trusting history, there are figures who actually have more evidence for them than what we find in the Bible. It gets messy when we bring the divine into it, when we bring magic into it. This person was a king of this nation from this time to this time. Kings of nations exist. The nation existed. We can find archaeological evidence that the nation existed, that it has had kings in the past. There's some currency with this person on it. They were the king. Sure. I don't really have an issue with the idea that Jesus existed, that a guy named Jesus existed, he wouldn't have been named Jesus, but you know what I mean. But that a guy existed, made some claims, gained a following, and got executed. That's not hard to believe. The hard to believe stuff comes with the divinity, the nature. It's also more at stake, and there's more to it. I don't have people trying to force Caesarism on the general public. I don't have Caesarism, raising kids and indoctrinating kids and fear-mongering and manipulating kids in their upbringing. Christianity does those things. It's more stakes. If Julius Caesar never existed, that's much more of an oh well than if Christ existed. Christ is a little bit more important because we've made it a little bit more important. Yeah, we've based some stuff off of Caesar and off of ancient Rome, but we don't necessarily need to let go of those things if Caesar's proven to not exist. But when it comes to Christianity, it's a bit more complicated, it's a bit more baked in, the stakes are a little bit higher, and it's more of an intense topic, and it's more of an intense situation we find ourselves in the world when it comes to Christianity. I just reached for my laptop to scroll up on the screen, because that's what I have to do on my phone, but my phone's not scrolling up. I have to use my mouse. Seems genuine. I'm praying for him. I appreciate it. I am an atheist, and I am genuine. I'm trying. What's the biggest question you have for Christianity? Is God real? Look into universal restoration, which was the mainstream doctrine in the early church, and look into their theology. I'm adding so much stuff to my notebook. What was it? Universal restoration. Yeah, restoration. I am probably going to end the live here before too long. I have been going for just past an hour. I don't really find much credibility in the Kalam cosmological argument. It's just kind of boils down to God of the gaps. People definitely seem to have a much easier time letting go of their religious beliefs than they do letting go of their religious thinking. My religious beliefs were extremely hard to get rid of. It took me 7 years to slowly to become an atheist. It took me more than that to, like, I'm still deconstructing from some different beliefs and things that have been baked in. So a lot of people, it's a whole thing. It's an entire thing and a half to let go of religious beliefs. So yeah, I don't know about that. 36 viewers, huge. I know, right? I know. I've been at like 25 to 35, like this, like most of this live, and I'm at 13 likes. It's freaking insane. Thank you all so much for being here. And I know I'm like panicking because I'm drowning in chat. But it's good. I love it. It does suck that I can't take the time to have conversations with everybody. Um, but it is cool. Yeah, I'm a random nobody on the internet. Uh, so any amount of support or anyone willing to like look at my live for more than 2 seconds is really, really cool and exciting to me. So thank you. What beliefs are you still deconstructing? Right now, I think the big one is just still the relationship with a higher being, and there being a higher being looking out for me, and thinking that I have a connection and a relationship and talking to that being, even though I genuinely don't believe that being is there. I still find myself kind of shifting over into that lane sometimes. Because it's just what I did, especially in times of stress. The first 20 plus years of my life, I thought God was all I had, because I didn't have much else. I didn't have many other people to go to for any kind of help. That's one of the reasons my bond with God, or what I thought was my bond with God, was so strong, because that's who I had growing up. That's about all I had. Wasn't always happy fun times. I walked out of my childhood with a lot of trauma, anxiety, depression, many times of wanting to end my life throughout my childhood. Wasn't great. But I always thought that I had this relationship with this higher being, this amazing higher being that actually cared about me, and that everything was going to be okay. If I just, held on to that higher being and trusted that higher being. So that is like the biggest thing for me, is still letting go of that baked in, especially like trigger response. I still find myself praying every now and then. I don't think that there's going to be, I genuinely don't believe there's going to be a response, but it's just a knee-jerk reaction, because it's just what I did. I'm only 27 years old. I left Christian. I became an atheist just over 2 years ago. So 25 years. Man, I don't know how much I was praying when I was like 1 or 2, but 20 plus years of relying on this being and thinking I had this relationship, and only a couple years out, yeah, I still got some stuff baked in that I'm still working on. Do you think the world would be better off if everyone was atheistic? Not necessarily. I definitely think we'd be better off without religion, which I know it's kind of hard to have belief in a God without then I feel like it does become a slippery slope. I'm not trying to give a fallacy or anything, but I feel like it does quickly turn into, well, yeah, there's this being, but also it's this kind of being, and it wants this from us, and these are the rules, and it does kind of slide into religion. I think the world would be an infinitely better place without organized religion, an infinitely better place without people forcing their beliefs, and especially like forcing their beliefs into politics. Not just here in the U.S., but in other places around the world where religion is just baked into politics. In some places, more so than in the U.S. I think the world would be a better place. I think if we could just sit around the campfire and hold hands and sing Kumbaya, that would be swell. But that does not seem to be how things work, unfortunately. Who's forcing their beliefs? Some states in the U.S., one or two states, have or are trying to push or did push. I think one of them actually did mandatory Bible classes in school. I'm not going to open that can of worms at the end of the stream. I was going to bring up something else. I'm not going to open that can of worms as I'm about to end the stream. This guy is naive. Maybe he is. Drawing a blank, I'm going to be honest with you. But stuff like that. Just trying to bake Christianity into Christian culture. Trying to, Trump working on weeding out anti-Christian bias in the federal government. Things like that. And especially, I intentionally brought up with some countries worse than us, because there are some countries where, Islamic countries, where Islam is law. Islam is the law. It's not even baked in. It is the law, where it gets definitely more of that force, more of that attention. Sounds like you're a militant atheist. Organized religion is bad. Have you ever just read the Gospels? The Gospel of John? The Gospel of John is the least trustworthy of the Gospels. And I have read them multiple times. Multiple different versions. What is the purpose of fire burning? It's just a thing that it does. I don't really believe in grand divine purpose. Like, fire burns because, it has some purpose in our lives. Fire burns because fire burns. Grass grows because grass grows. It matters because their beliefs impact the rest of us. Yes. I would agree. Look at the Shroud of Turin. I have. Not all too compelling, I'm going to be honest with you. It is one of those that you get a lot of bias articles about it. You get the Christian article that's saying all these wonderful things about it, and then you see the atheist article that just trashes it. And it's one of those where it's just like, I feel like I'm in a room and everyone's just yelling contradictory things at me, and I don't know what to make of that. It's just like, I don't know. It's just like, all right, everyone, shut the fuck up. What are the facts? Let's look at this. What's this fact? What are arguments about it? What evidence? Who did we bring in? Why is that untrustworthy? Why is it trustworthy? It's just it needs to be more organized. But it does not seem like the Shroud of Turin is all that compelling, especially one big issue that I have when it comes to divine claims or supernatural claims is that if there is a God, there just should be evidence. It should just be a thing. The heavens should declare his glory. All creation should declare his glory. And it doesn't. So even when something happens, and it's like, yeah, that might be miraculous, it definitely seems interesting, my first thought is not going to be that it's divine. because looking around on a day-to-day basis, I don't see magic. I don't see the divine. And I see a lot of evidence against divine magical stuff happening and a lot of lack of evidence for it happening. So I have built up that bias because I don't, and maybe that's me. Maybe that's my fault. Maybe that's me. Maybe I'm expecting too much of an all-powerful, all-knowing, all-loving being, creator of the universe. But I'd expect more. I wouldn't expect, hey, we have this cloth that's kind of weird. I would expect more than, hey, these people in this town had this thing that was kind of weird. I would expect more than, hey, Jesus appeared on my toast. I know that's kind of a joke one, but just stuff like that. You know, I saw him in the clouds. You know, I had this cold and I prayed, and the next day I didn't have a cold anymore. You know, I kind of had a limp, and then I prayed, and then I didn't have the limp, and then I had the limp later on. And it's just it they shouldn't be so obscure and so ambiguous and so just all creation should proclaim the glory of God, and it just doesn't. It is always going to be my biggest hang-up. And maybe that's my fault. Maybe that, because I don't think it's really ever a good thing. I don't know about that, but I don't try to have bias when it comes to these situations. But that is a bias that I find myself having. With that, I know chat's still going, and I would love to keep going with it, but I do think it is time to go ahead and end the stream. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. This was a very active stream. Most of the stream I had between 25 and 35 viewers, which is so much for me, and chat was going so much faster. This has been one of my biggest, streams that I've had since starting streams on YouTube. So it's really cool, really exciting. I have 14 likes. I know it's such a small number. Some of you might be coming from, watching other bigger Christian content creators or atheist content creators or whatever else have you that have, hundreds of thousands of subscribers, and their streams are, blow mine out of the water any day. My streams don't blow this out of the water, is the thing. So this blows my normal streams out of the water, so I'm excited. So thank you all so much for being here. Hope to see you in other lives or in comment sections or anything like that. I usually go live every Tuesday night at about 9:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you're still having conversations with people, I see that some people are still talking to each other. Feel free to continue that in the comment section. This live will stay up after I end it, so you can. I don't want to interrupt your guys' conversations. You can keep talking to each other in the comment section. So that's one thing I always feel bad about, interrupting. And thank you all for being here. Like I said earlier, I'm a random nobody on the interwebs. So the fact that anyone's willing to give me more than 2 seconds of their day is really exciting. And the fact that a lot of people seem to stick around and engage in chat, and I got 16 likes, is super duper 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 exciting. My cat just ran through with the zoomies. Gonna get clawed. Anyway, before I get clawed live on the interwebs, thank you truly so much for being here. I hope to see you all again. Have an amazing night, day, wherever you are. 17 likes now, 18 likes now. Thank you so much. Have a good night, day, whenever you're watching this. Bye. Thank you for watching.